What's up, peoples, and welcome back to another video. Okay, goodbye, Teasley. We are back in my bedroom after a long time of not being in here, and that is because I got a ring light for Christmas. I'm very excited to be able to film around the house, and I'm going to try and do some like vlogs and stuff again. But that's not why you're here. You're here for our 300 subscriber Q&A. Seeing as I only have one phone and it's filming this, I wrote down all your questions on this piece of paper. I know, very old-fashioned of me, but let's get to it. First question was, do you write your own comic? Yes, I do, though it is not published yet. I'm actually working on that right now. Well, working on finding an artist. My comic is currently codenamed Project Punk. It is set in a sort of like cyberpunk dystopia-ish world, and it follows, I don't know if I can give away spoilers. It follows some people as they do a thing. Does that work? I will link the vlogs up above and you can check those out if you're interested. I plan to continue vlogging that process very soon with my new ring light. Thank you, Dad. I'm very excited. But yes, answer your question, I do write my own comic, and you should definitely check out those vlogs because I could always use more watch time hours. Next is a sort of longer question. So I've seen a lot of books in your background. If you don't follow me over on Instagram or you don't watch my YouTube shorts, then you probably haven't seen this, but there are a ton of books in the background of my current filming location. I will continue with the question. And I was thinking, are those books yours only, or does someone else in your family love to read? None of those books are mine. My bedroom had really bad lighting up until now, and so I'm not really able to film in it most of the time. So all my books are in my room, and then that was actually filmed in my mother's room. Teasley, don't drink my water. Thank you. Those reels and things were actually filmed in my mother's room because she has the best natural lighting. So those are all like her books. I think that she mostly has like practical books. She has a lot of books on like essential oils or like farming or like practical things like that. Like more like how-tos and guides. So I think I've been using that as my backdrop just because I feel like it looks good. I will put some footage up on the screen of my bookshelves because I do have a bunch of books, mostly comic books and Dungeons and Dragons books. What are you doing? Okay, I was like, do you think? Because pretty much every novel I've ever read, I just read on my Kindle, but I actually am planning to stop doing that and buy some actual books. So, reading vlogs, anyone? And you don't get to say no because I already have multiple of them planned out in my 2024 content calendar. I'm actually really excited. In January, I plan to do my first ever reading vlog. I've been watching some booktubers recently and I really love their vlogs. And since I'm not always making enough progress on my writing to be vlogging something, I figured that when I'm not doing a writing vlog, I could do a reading vlog. So in January, I'm going to try and read Gideon the Ninth, which I've heard is supposed to be good. And also just like the cover, the moment I saw it, I knew I had to read it. Someone in skull face paint wearing sunglasses sounds just cheesy in the best way possible. So definitely reading that in January. I'm going to try and vlog the process. I have a lot of comic books. Actually, I don't have enough shelf space in my bedroom because it's very small and we're currently in the process of putting up more shelves. So a lot of my books are shoved into my desk. I will show that as well. And if you're wondering what sort of comic books and things I like to read, I have some recommendation videos which I can link. Okay, the next two questions are the big questions. Not because they're long, but just because they're gonna need a long answer. First is how to start, because I said the topic was writing. Other sums it up pretty well. How do I actually write a book? I have everything I need, I just need to know steps. Lucky for you, I recently started writing a novel and I'm about to start draft 2, so I can give you some pointers. So obviously the process for writing, like a novel versus a comic versus a screenplay, etc., are all different. I can't tell you how to write a screenplay yet. I hope to learn that soon. If you want to learn how to write a comic book, I actually just released a video fairly recently about steps to write a comic book. I will link that up above. When it comes to a novel, I do plan to do an in-depth series about this on my channel, but for now I can just give you the basic rundown because unfortunately, so first up you said that you already have everything you need to know about the story. That's great. That was the first thing I was going to say. Step 1 is to figure out your concept, your characters, the story, etc. Step 2 is to outline it. Now, for a novel, I would say this depends on your personal method. Are you a pantser? You just like to come up with it as you go? Are you a plotter? You like to know everything beforehand? Or are you maybe a mixture of both? You're a plantser? I'd say I'm sort of a plantser these days. So if you're a pantser, I'd say just go for it, I guess. There's not too much tips I can give for someone who just wants to sit down and write when it comes to the outlining stage. But if you need a little bit more of an outline for your first time around, then I would use the outlining method that I used for my novel. So for my novel, I wrote down every single scene that was going to take place in the order that they were going to take place. I didn't go super detailed. I was just like, Aaron and Jeremy get into an argument, you know, stuff like that. Then I decided how many chapters I was going to have, and I broke the novel's scenes down and put them into their appropriate chapters. So by the end of this, I had a chapter by chapter outline, and I knew it was supposed to happen in every single chapter. I think that if you take the time, because this took me weeks to accomplish, granted I wasn't working on it every single day, so it was probably more like days, but I think that though it's time consuming, it can really, really help you, because I did try to write a novel back in my Write a Novel in 60 Days challenge in the summer, and it was awful. I didn't enjoy the process. I didn't make any progress, and I think that's because I didn't have an outline. So I really do suggest, especially for your first time around, doing a major outline, unless you're like, that's going to totally ruin my creativity. Then I'm like, just go for it, I guess. But if you want to outline, I'd say have a good outline, because I do think that it is worth it to have an outline, even if it does take more time, just because that way you don't run into any dead ends, and you can really rely on the work that you did previously to help guide you through the actual writing process. So next obviously would be the writing part, which I can't tell you how to write. That's going to be your own style that you slowly develop, but I'd say just sit down and do it. I know that sounds like really daunting, or maybe too simple, but really that's what you have to do. The first thing that I ever wrote that I'd say I was happy with, of Star Wars fan fiction that I sat down and wrote. And I wrote that until I realized it was bad, and then I wrote again, and then I wrote again, and then I wrote again. And over like the course of a year, I wrote this fan fiction like 5-6 times, and eventually I came out with a version that I was happy with. And the amount that I learned just from seeing what worked and seeing what didn't, and trying again and doing it again and again, that's how I learned to be a writer, just by doing it. And you know, the first draft is just telling the story to yourself. You take your outline, you see what works, you see what doesn't, and then you do draft 2. Because draft 2 is what I'm about to start for my novel. It's more about fine-tuning the story and getting it ready. I hope to only do 2 drafts because I did so much outlining and I'm doing so much editing and revising during the actual writing process. I'm a very slow writer, and I really take my time to make sure that everything fits together. Shh, Teasy, shh, I'm filming. So after your first draft and you've just written it all down, I'd say do a second draft, go through, edit it, read it all, see what you think of it, do a little bit of editing, rewrite things that need to be rewritten, and then just keep doing that until you have a draft that you're happy with. If that means you only do 2 drafts, or if that means you do 7. Whatever the case, totally fine. After my second draft, I'm going to do a third draft, which is going to be different. It's going to be my line edit. Now, sending it to an editor, I suppose, is optional. I personally want to get a developmental edit since this is my first ever novel. I've written comic books. I feel like I know how that formatting works, but I've never written such a small standalone novel, and I'm really struggling to fit all the ideas I have succinctly into just 40 chapters without anything feeling rushed. So I just want someone to look over that, most likely. So after my line edit, I will probably send it off to a developmental editor. They will look it over, they will let me know what they think needs changing, and then I guess I'll do a draft 4, or maybe they'll say it's perfect and I'm a genius, but that seems unlikely. And then after that, you could, I guess, begin querying and try and get picked up by a publisher. It of course depends on how polished your manuscript is. Like I said, I'm a very slow but very clean writer, whereas some people write a first draft and it's super messy, but they do it a lot faster. It really depends on your style. But that is the basic outline, and like I said, I'm going to be doing a video series once I've gotten my novel off to publishing about every single step along the way of how I did that. Because I think that that's, well, one, it would be an awesome series to get to share, like, here's step by step how to get your book published. But I am not doing that right now because I haven't gotten my book published yet, and I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything right before I start teaching it. So this is just what I'm doing. I will keep you posted as to how that goes for me. Best of luck with your projects. Best of luck to everyone with their projects. Whenever I hear you talking about your stories in the comments, or I see like things that you post on Instagram, I'm very excited, and I think that they sound really cool. So way to go, I guess. Good luck. Okay, next is the most difficult question for me to answer. Sometimes I want to describe things, but they are complicated to put into words. How can I overcome that? Well, that's difficult to answer because I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about. Is it like you're trying to describe a location, but you're struggling to describe it without using too many words? Or is it that you're trying to describe a concept, but you're like, don't know the right words to use? When in doubt, use the internet. I often am like, I need to describe this thing, but I feel like there should be a word for it instead of me having to use a billion words to describe one thing. So I'll be like, what is the word for this is a bad example because it's a backsplash, but like the fancy wall behind a kitchen, you know, like, and then it'll be like, this is a backsplash. I'm like, oh great, I can just call it a backsplash. So definitely look things up if you're looking for ways to describe things better. If it's more of like a concept thing, sometimes getting another person's opinion can help. Like I know that sometimes I'll be trying to describe things or come up with a word that's like slipped my mind, and I'm so in it and I'm so in not knowing that I can't figure it out, but then someone else will be like, oh, do you mean confused? And I'm like, yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Again, bad example, but first thing that came to mind. So I definitely think that you should try asking questions, asking for help, or just also reading. I can learn a lot from reading and just from writing. So just keep trying until it works, or read and read and read and see how other people explain things and apply that to your own writing and learn from it. Sorry, that wasn't probably the most helpful, but it's sort of difficult to answer without knowing exactly what you're talking about. Now, our last question. Do you put all your best ideas in your current work, or do you sometimes think you should save some for another story? Save some for another story. At least with me personally, I have always kept tons of notes since I was little. So when I write a story, it's sort of like I'm going through notes and stories that I started when I was like 7, taking a character from that one and taking this character from that one, taking a plot line from over there. I usually have more ideas than I know what to do with, but if you put everything into one project, it's just gonna overflow. Sometimes this can be done well. Like I'd say that in the comic book saga, which I absolutely love, there's so many ideas in that, but it's a really long series and it's done by a very good writer who has a lot of experience in the industry, and he's able to execute the amount of ideas succinctly so that they all feel like they belong together. However, sometimes I'll read things and I'm like, wait, they just introduced a new plot line, why? Or I'll watch something and be like, there's too many characters, I can't get attached to any of them because I can't stay with them for long enough. So while you should definitely put good ideas and a bunch of them in your stories, you don't want to overfill your story just because you want to use an idea. If your idea doesn't feel like it has a place in that story, just save it for a future story. It's better to have too many ideas than not enough. And that way you can always have something to write, which I know sounds daunting, but I honestly wouldn't want it any other way. I love writing and I want to always have something to work on. Thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for helping me hit 300 subscribers. I am absolutely over the moon and thrilled. I really want to try and make this at least like a part-time job, and to do that, I need to hit 1,000 subscribers. So every single one of you helps and counts, and I also just love feeling like I can help you out a little bit, even if it's just that you enjoy my content, or maybe you are actually learning something about the writing process. That makes me so happy and so excited. And I know this video wasn't what I usually make, but I figured we could do something a little bit more casual since it was a Q&A. I will be doing another special video, probably a Q&A for 400 subscribers, so stay tuned. And follow me over on Instagram if you want to be a part of that. I'm almost at 2,000 over there and I'm very, very excited. I also have a lot of plans for the new year when it comes to content, both on Instagram and YouTube. I'm starting my new series, What Writers Can Learn From ... and I'm going to be doing a video every single month talking about what writers can learn from, and then insert some sort of project or story from media. Like I believe in January we're going to be doing what writers can learn from She-Ra and the Princess of Power, which I currently am working on editing right now, and I'm very excited. I get to talk about Catra for like 20 minutes, which was a lot of fun for me to do. If you are new here and you stumbled upon this video out of the blue, you should definitely subscribe. I'm getting back to my normal content next week, so I will see you on the next page. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again so much for watching this video and helping me to reach 300 subscribers. It really means the world to me. For now, Teasley and I are going to say goodbye. Say goodbye, Teasley. Don't kiss me. I love you, but Help.